fault, and it's hers too.
Well, that's just our way, and I'm live on radio right now, so I just not the radio station, just the
just setting up.
Yeah,
right.
I'm still talking to Rainey and the kids and saying goodnight, everybody. You're in the pre-show, which lasts until 4 minutes and 25 seconds after the hour when we go live on the radio station. Hey, everybody, you're in the 4 minutes and 25 seconds after the hour when we go live on the radio station.
I think you should probably let me go so you get your sound
I
figured
think
out.
I'm going to let you go. It's just so I love you. I will talk to you sometime tomorrow morning.
So good. Love you. Bye.
See you. Bye. Well, somewhere there's a window. Messenger call right there. And wow, it's still going. Messenger call and hang up. Boom. Let me plug in my mic guy or my headset, guys. You know what you're picking up too is the YouTube channel popped up on me. So it is, I'm going to shut the YouTube channel off and go over to the chat room in StreamYard. There we go. Hey guys, good evening. It is 2:26, 2 minutes and 26 after the hour. We're very close to going live on the radio. And how's everybody today? I hope everybody's fine and good and dandy. This is the, of course, the pre-show to the Intrepid radio program. Just trying to get everything lined up the right way here. Boom. Still no, I do not have, this will be my last night this week broadcasting from up here in northern Minnesota without my studio equipment. So you have to put up with the mic a little bit. Mic is not perfect tonight because we're using internal mic as opposed to external. And we got a little over a minute and we go live. There's Reuben. I'm going to bring him in for a second. Hey, Reuben, you sit tight and I will bring you back in a bit. I hope we can pick you up on this.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. It's whether or not the radio station can pick you up.
Go.
I'm going to play with this. I'm going to put you out and I'll call you back in a bit. All right, let's see if I wanted to hijack my, now I think of it, hijacking Odyssey radio. Input device is the internal mic, output device, blah, 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 Odyssey on air. Well, we might not be able to do it. We might not be able to hear him on the radio show tonight. I still haven't gotten that fixed. Well, we got 10 seconds. We're going to go live. I'm going to go dark for a minute. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, happy Thursday evening, folks. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to my program, the Intrepid radio program, right here on Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. Come on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. Check out this show. You can listen there audibly. You can also hear tonight's show in rebroadcast tomorrow during the day. So you can go check the schedule on that. You are also able to join us tonight at the simulcast in video, and that's over at youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, where you can see the video for tonight, and you can join the live chat room inhabited by the fellow Intrepids that are over there and have been there for quite a long time, I must say. Good to have a lot of you have been here for the duration of this show for the last few years. And so I appreciate your being here. Welcome to everybody over there in the chat room. Master Finn, my first mate over in the chat room. Welcome. Now, I am really hoping that I've got this set up right. So when we have Reuben FastHorse in tonight, we're going to be able to hear him over on the audio version of the show over on the radio station. If not, I'm going to give some verbal cues to the things he says. So if you are missing that and the audio is not set up right to hijack my recording with him, it seems to be this is picked up by the radio station, but it won't record. Oh, maybe it's just the audio recording will not record the what's going on here in the chat room and here on the video. So, or here in StreamYard, which is what I broadcast with. But it does pick up on the audio, on the radio station. So I think we're fine. So never mind. I want to start the show by saying that today was kind of a weird day, a weird wasted day. And the lighting in here is very harsh over my head. It's very bright for the room. But there's no indirect lighting. There's no studio lighting. So it casts a lot of shadows and stuff. And I probably look craggier and more tired today. Well, that's because I had a fun experience this morning. I'm here and I'm talking on the phone this morning. And my friend Andy walks out and he hands me some gummies. He has them in his hand. And he says, here, take these. These are good for what ails you as far as any physical pain or aches and pains and stuff like that. I said, sure. So I pop them. I said, what are they? And he said, they're CBD based. Okay, cool. So I took them. And about a half hour, 40 minutes later, I was talking on the phone, engaging in an interview for somebody for this book that I'm writing for Andy. And I just noticed that I was rather detached. She was saying things to me and I was writing down notes, but for the life of me, I don't think I can even read them. Let's see. Is this her? No, that's, just want to show you this page of notes. Oh my goodness. It's, what my own notes look like when I'm stoned. So yeah, I was actually stoned this morning. For about 3 hours. We went to lunch. I ate heartily. And then I fell asleep for a good 2.5 hours this afternoon. That's what, when I smoke pot, it would, if I got stoned, I'd have to go to sleep later. But this is kind of what my handwriting looked like today when I was taking these notes. And I'm trying to, there's things I was scratching out because that's not the word I meant, but I wrote the word memories, and it was actually supposed to be the word awareness, and so stuff like that. And then they got a little more sparse as we went through the interview, and compared to like yesterday when I was stone cold sober. I mean, my notes were legible. I know what I wrote, and blah 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 blah. So that's when I first noticed, and I thought, what's going on with me? I was thinking because I'm diabetic, I thought, am I having a low blood sugar attack of some kind where you get a little spacey and but no, I wasn't feeling any of those. And then as we're going on, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, it's those CBD gummies. And I thought, but CBD doesn't make you high. It doesn't give you, it doesn't make you stoned. Well, he showed me later, we were laughing about it later, and he showed me the package. And this is the package. So it says CBD and THC, full spectrum hemp extract. It has 25 milligrams of CBD and 2.5 milligrams of THC per serving. And a serving is one gummy. And they look like these. I'm not going to eat one. They look like that. They're just little yellow gummies, peach flavored in this particular one. And he had handed me 3. So neither of us really were. His wife is the one who's kind of educated on all this stuff. And she said, oh my, I only take a half of one of those. And he gave me 3. So I had 3 of those this morning. So I was feeling no pain at about 9:20 this morning, because we were up and around at about 6 o'clock, and we were working already and doing stuff. And so 3 hours later, I took one of those, and boom, oops, says Matt Finn, exactly, over in the chat room. So greetings everyone over there. Matt Finn, Michelle Canham Free, Matthew Sainsbury from Barbados, and you guys are all over the country. Project Skyfalls is here. Who else we got? Morgan Snow, and I think there's several other of you in here. Barbie D is here, and I can't say hi to you all because we're on live radio, and I don't want to take up our time to do that. But I was going to do a topic tonight based on my experience today. And if you saw the graphic for tonight's show, it was really all about a tongue-in-cheek way of talking about being stoned. But at the same time, it had to do with, I was going to start digging us into the magical history of weed. And as I put in the subtitles, from someone who's never been an advocate. I've never been a weed advocate. I'm not one of those other guys. I got to do a show on weed so you all understand. But I called it the unbakeable gumminess of being stoned was the title for tonight's show. And then Reuben and I were talking, and I said, why don't you come on tonight? And so we're going to talk a little bit too. And I wanted to talk with him a bit about medicinal herbs, weeds and herbs and plants that are used in Lakota culture, Native American culture. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that when I pull him into the show. And he's sitting out there in the wings now. Maybe we'll pull Reuben in right now, and let's talk about a little bit of this. And Michelle Cannon Free says, doped or duped. So here's Reuben. Let's bring him into the stream. Hey, Reuben, how you doing, brother?
Mataya. Echesh leche woga kagikded locha lakoli woga. I'm speaking Lakota, my language that I've taught at NYU. I just had brain surgery.
I see that. Yep.
And spoken many
actually,
times, 4 times at the UN, United Nations, and Indigenous Languages in 2019. But that's not the point. The point is you're talking about how pose the question again. I'm sorry.
Well, here's kind of the question. It's a little bit about what you and I were talking about. I am doing the title for tonight's show before you and I talked, and I wanted to add you into tonight's show. Is the title is The Unbakeable Gumminess of Being Stoned. And then I put the subtitle is The Magical History of Weed. And so I thought, since you and I are talking tonight, I know that we were talking about smudging with sage and things last week to bless your house, and how that was a Native American tradition. Tradition is probably not the word. An ancient practice in Native American culture. And I thought of you and talking with you about that. But since I was talking a bit tonight about kind of accidentally being stoned half the day today, we were going to talk a little bit about weed and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit, all of us, a little bit about. It's not so much personal experience. Hey, do you toke up? Do you smoke weed? It's not that. It's what are some of the practices you've either been involved with or know of in Lakota culture, traditional Native American culture, that uses natural herbs, natural plants for ceremonies and rituals and things?
Great question, Scotty. Chair. The reason why we use kinship terms is because simply we don't own the name of Scotty. So I say Chair, older brother. He calls me Misu, little brother.
Yes.
And you're right in saying, looking at these terms, herbs and whatnot, we've used herbs all our lives. And the four medicines that we own are the male medicine, sage, which cleanses. Native Americans never had a corner in their home, a teepee or wigwam or something like that. They just blessed it. Tobacco. When you give something to nature, you put tobacco down, or you approach an elder for wisdom or understanding, you give them tobacco. And if you don't have tobacco, you pull your hair.
Really?
And give it as a reciprocal thing. Reciprocal.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could use hair as a replacement for tobacco when doing the gifting of an elder.
Yeah, it's just old way, ancient way.
What would they do with that hair then? Would they burn it in an offering? Would they put it in a spell work, if you will? How would they use that?
That's the question, because they could do all those things.
Okay.
It's up to them. But the fact that you're asking and giving in that way, the tobacco or the hair.
Yes.
It's the whole purpose is it's like a Japanese tea ceremony where it's not about drinking the tea. It's about the giving.
Giving of the right.
And so it's a ceremony. It's a ceremony, more or less, in that way. Long story short, so we're talking about Mary Jane, and Native Americans use it. Sure, of course.
Yeah.
If I had cancer, I'd probably use it myself. I've never had any really good episodes with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I had Purple Kush from Denver, and that was great. It put me to sleep, let me rest. It was great. It was good.
Oh, Pineapple Express? That was a movie.
But the whole point is, I'm not condoning it, and I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying it's not good. Like the Buddhist says, it's not good. It's not bad. It just is.
It just is.
And that's all we can do. So if you're,
I will say that I don't smoke as a general habit. I have had it several times in my life. One of the last times, well, the listeners of this show would call bullshit if I said I didn't smoke it, because my oldest son Sam and I, when we were down in Louisiana last year, this time last year, we had one show where we had smoked quite a bit with the Mexican work crew, and we were rather stoned, and we did a show together from our trailer, and I think people still call for redos of that show. So it was rather humorous, and when I smoke this stuff, I know everybody has a different reaction to things. I smoke it. It makes me stupid. And I can't think of things I want to say. I get snickery and giggly at the stupidest things. I find myself, when I have been stoned, to attempt to talk through the haze. And I think I'm putting on my best voice and I'm going to talk intelligently now. And everybody stares at me and starts laughing. So I'm apparently not saying things very well. And then it makes me tired and I fall asleep. So,
And it's
I'm a pretty harmless pot smoker.
no, that's fine. And everything you said says to me what herbs do, because it's natural herbs. My mother's mother was, of course, Lakota, Native American Sioux Indian, but she would go out with the galvanized pail and would have towels and herbs to induce labor or induce what do you call that when they kill a baby? Something.
Abortion.
Abortion. So they had the power. They had the power, and they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were called wise women. And in the white world, it's called witches. They were witches, but they were not witches. They were just people that, if the pregnancy went wrong, then they knew what herb to use, and it went away. And she would come back in the morning through the blizzard in North Dakota, where I'm from, the Dakotas, South Dakota, and she would say, they named the baby after me.
Nice.
So to me, that was amazing. And we don't recognize in Native American culture the wise women, the witches, that helped induce labor or obstruct labor that way for them. And we don't talk enough about that, the women in this world. And Native America is a very matrilineal, matriarchal society where we acknowledge women. Really, the women were in charge. Rainey's in charge, not you.
Ain't that the truth?
So, yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point is that women have say and have power, but it's such a white man's world where I don't care who you are, Trump, Biden, it's still a white man's world where they think they're in charge.
Yes.
And they're not.
And I always say, rather tongue in cheek, I say, I'm the one who wears the pants in my family. Right, Rainey? Right, Rainey? Matthew Sainsbury here said, I'm going to put show his post online. He says, women in Lakota were seen as sacred, as they were the givers of life. When the American U.S. cavalry attacked their villages, they didn't always treat the Indian women with respect.
No. He's right. He is totally right. Thank you for saying that. It's a matrilineal, matriarchal society. Women have always, there's an old T-shirt that says, there's an Indian man smoking a pipe, and this never was a peace pipe. It was just a pipe. But the T-shirt said, this country was run by women, and that the man could fish and hunt, and that's all. But the women took care of the homes, the teepees, the wigwams, the wikiups, whatever, Mohawk country, Lakota country, Southwest country.
Sure.
Navajo country. They took care of everything. And the white men came in and ruined all that.
Yeah. I hear that.
But the reason why I love you so much is because you're very tribal in the sense of Scottish. And
yes.
You had clans. Lakotas don't, but in the Northwest Territories, the Mohawks here in New York, where I'm at, they all had clans. They all had something to base themselves on. And that's being tribal. I spoke at the UN 4 times. 4 times.
Yep.
And I talked about that with his indigenous languages. So I'm not a dummy.
Right.
But you've seen me work, and I've seen you work in Bloomington and Eric Nelson and all these guys that I love so much, my brothers. You put me in a kilt. I still wear a kilt.
You had an Indian in a kilt, a tribal man playing a Klansman. Ryan Gale is in the chat room, and he asks, is or was every Native Nation matriarchal?
Yes, every Native Nation was matriarchal. The woman owned the home, the teepee, the wigwam, the wickiup. They were matrilineal. America is matriarchal. And so people don't know that, but they were in charge. The way you divorce a Native man, ladies, is you would take all his clothes and belongings and throw it outside.
Oh, I think we still practice that some today. Aren't there some guys that come home to their apartment and all their stuff's out on the front lawn from the window? So.
True, very true. And then I think that's where America got it. You know, they just said, "Hey, throw shit outside." You know.
Yeah.
But
it's all right.
It's true. It's true. And so our accent is Native American. The way you speak and the way I speak. And I lived in New Zealand, Australia for 12 years. And I heard their English. The English do not own their own language anymore. China does. There's more in the populace of speaking the King's English. Canadians say about.
We're gonna go about town.
Yeah. And same thing with New Zealand. But New Zealanders, the Maori, the native people of that country, you drive your car and it says about, and then it says stop, because they own the language. You go to the New Zealand airport, it says it in New Zealand, Maori, and then it says it in English. And that's what Native Americans need to do. There's no official language for America. It's silent.
Well, we started English and they never made it an official language. So
right. No, you're right. And I'd rather keep it that way in a sense, Chia, because it just lets people know that America is so universal.
Yes.
And
melting pot.
It doesn't
before we go too much further, tell everybody who doesn't know what happened. You had brain surgery, and so you've got that nice big gnarly scar that your hair's starting to grow in around, and that all started because you banged into a door, and it knocked you over?
It knocked me out.
Wow.
I had to pull the door in the middle of the night, and it hit me right here and knocked me out. And I woke up and I had a seizure.
Oh boy.
I had a seizure. So I was flopping around like a flounder. And my girl, Susie said, you know, we got to get the EMTs. They came in, they looked me up and down. I was good. And then I had like 2 soft-boiled eggs and toast, and I went to bed just to lay down. And same thing happened. I had a seizure again, and then they called me in, and then they say that when you have a seizure, you don't remember anything, and that is true. That's very true. So they drilled me 2 times in the head to relieve the pressure of the brain, because the blood on the brain irritates the brain. Your brain is like a sponge, and that's what happened with.
Oh boy!
So I woke up to nothing. Like I'm talking to you right now. I don't know.
I hurt my head.
I hurt my head. This is what happened. Really?
Wow.
So long story short. So that happened, and everything became strange in the sense of it's going to sound crazy,
Sure.
but
That's okay.
I was aware of animals real quick.
Oh.
I could see deer quick. I could see foxes quick. I could see beavers. Everything was just wow. Really? And, you know, I was aware of the temperature. I was aware of the weather before the weatherman could say that. Oh, it's going to be windy today. It's going to be
I remember
gusty.
you telling me a few weeks ago, right after this, you were mentioning this, that you were dreaming differently, that you were more aware of animals out there. Were they communicating with you, or you were just aware of them being there?
I was conscious enough to where I could recognize them before they could recognize me. And it's crazy. You know, I'm not a medicine man. I'm not a holy man. I never claimed to be. I never will be. And I hope not to be. But that is the thing with Lakota people, is that when you come to the point of a near-death experience, or you know, near-death experience, but also when you're sick, and you almost die. And that's a Lakota way. That's a Native American way. But the Navajo believe you have to be an apprentice. And there's a master that can teach you.
All right.
But
that makes sense.
That's their way. And I find that very Irish. I find that very Scottish.
Yeah, very Celtic.
Sure. That is something that they become. So we cannot become medicine people. That's my question. My answer is that we do not become medicine people until you're at the doorstep of death.
Okay.
And
so do you think that is something, what is your personal take, or if you can't talk about it, that's fine, but is your personal take on your experiences now since the brain surgery, is your take on that you are being, in a sense, welcomed into being more of a shaman, being more of a holy man, that this was the step to get there? What do you feel about yourself personally?
I believe that I'm called. I don't claim it.
Yeah.
And, you know, people have called me all my life a heyoka, which is in Lakota, a sacred clown. The one that's a manifestation of the thunder beings in the West.
Let me ask you, language-wise, while we're on that, you'd say heyoka means like that holy man, the the
Sacred clown.
sacred clown. What about the man in the late 19th century, late 1800s, Wavoka, who led the ghost dance? Now, he was called a prophet, but I'm thinking Heyoka and Wavoka, are they the same root word?
I'm not going to say that to admit it, but I think he was somebody. He was a prophet.
Okay.
And this is what I want to say to everybody listening: is that you are a Heyoka, you are a sacred clown, you are a medicine woman, a medicine man, a psychic.
We've got to get
healer.
Western culture's connotation of the word clown out of our minds when you say that. What does clown mean?
Clown is somebody that a clown is somebody that thinks outside the box. She or he is somebody that when we first look at them, we laugh.
Right.
And that's the purpose. The idea of looking at them right away, but they're not made to be funny. They're made to be healing. They're made to be if you look, I always say this to people, is that if I was a multimillionaire, I would create a traveling clown gallery, not just from Ringley Brothers and those clowns, which are sacred, right, but also Heyoka and then Pueblo people in Taos, New Mexico. They're all striped. They're striped.
Yes.
I would. Every nation has a sacred clown, and they're made. They're called to be funny and different, and they're tricked by their own tricks. Okay. They're tricked by their own tricks, and they're called forth to do this. They didn't want to be called forth, but they are. And so I would never want to be a sacred clown, a Heyoka. I would never want to be a medicine man. I would never want to be a holy man, because that is such a hard road to follow.
It's a responsibility to be. It's interesting. I compare that to the story of Thomas Becket, who was a very famous friend, a carousing buddy of Henry II of England back in the 1200s or the 1300s. I can't plug the date in my head right now, but they were infamous carousers together. Well, then Henry II, of course, becomes king, and he wants to appoint his friend Thomas Becket to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. And Becket is pretty much like, Your Majesty, don't ask me of this of me. I don't want to do this. Exactly what you're saying right now. He says, I don't want to do this. And the king says, I need somebody, my political ally, in there with the church. And he says, so you're it. Don't question me. You're it. You have the role. Start tomorrow. And so what does Becket do? He says, if I'm going to be the Archbishop of Canterbury, I'm going to do it for real. I need to have a change of heart. I need to change this is why I didn't want to do this. And now that he divested himself of all his belongings, and he gave them to the poor, and his money to the poor and stuff to the church. Of course, he becomes the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, he starts resisting Henry II from the church point of view. And Henry II's like pissed off. He's like, I put you in there because you're my friend and to be my ally. And he said, you asked me to be the Archbishop of Canterbury, and I will be the Archbishop of Canterbury. And no matter what you believe about his belief system. And so what did Henry eventually do? Henry had his good friend, who is now his political opponent in the church in this high position. He had him assassinated by two swordsmen on the steps of the altar of the Cathedral of Canterbury. And of course, he becomes a saint and all that stuff. But that's the way I see what you are talking about. What some people in politics I have seen do is that they are people who said, now that I am in this office, now, no matter what you think of him, I look at the last president and I say there were things that he was as a millionaire playboy that he would never do as the president of the United States, because I believe that everybody has a past, everybody's got their things, whether it's a politician, a preacher, a leader of some organization, everybody's got a past. And now how recent that was, it was like last week, that would be different. But if I did things years ago, should I be held to those standards now if I have changed my ways or I'm going to do this? You, on the other hand, are saying, I don't want this. Don't give this to me. I don't want to do this because of whatever your reasons are. The responsibility of it, the obligation of it, what it does to you as a person. I get that. And I take it all back to Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury. There's a great old movie that was made, by the way. I think it's called Becket, and it was starring Richard Burton, as Thomas Becket, and of all people, Dumbledore. Richard Harris played Henry II, and what a great old movie. It was made in the late 60s, I believe. But you should, if you get a chance, watch that movie, guys. So
I love that. And I'm going to throw you another dish where if anybody out there listening, if you can watch a movie by Dustin Hoffman called Little Bighorn, Little Big Man.
Big Horse. Little Big Man. Yeah, right.
Little Big Man.
Little Fast Horse.
But I'm married to a Jewish girl, so I'm gonna say I'm anti-Trump, but I respect you, Chia. I respect you.
I respect
in
you
many ways. Your political views, whatnot. I'm not judging you. I never did. Sure. We do what we do, and here we are. So I just love your. Pisses me off sometimes, but but that's nature, and that's okay. That's okay. And that's okay. That's right. So,
and I appreciate that. I love you for who you are, not for who you voted for.
Exactly. And I never voted. You get this.
And you didn't even vote.
Susie's Jewish, and she said, I'm 51 years old, and 2 years ago I voted for the first time. Why? Because Native Americans never vote. Why? This government has never, ever. The Pope has forgiven us. The Prime Minister of Canada has forgiven Native nations. But no goddamn, even Obama never, ever said, I'm sorry, we did what we did to you as a people. And,
and when it comes down to it, to be able to vote, you would have to recognize your citizenship as a citizen of the United States, and essentially what they wanted the Native peoples to do was relinquish their tribal citizenship and become full American citizens. So
I've got something to show you right now.
Show me.
Oh God, it's crazy, and it's something that nobody knows, and I do this in my classes, as well as when I speak at museums or at the UN or wherever. And just give me a moment.
Sure. There we go.
Here we go.
All right. Oh, yes. Your Standing Rock Sioux Tribe membership card.
Right there. I want to tattoo that number to prove
Ah,
to prove that I am Native American, just like the Nazis did to the Jews.
right,
This number
right.
on my forearm,
Yeah,
just to show that land of the free, home of the brave. Fuck you, not
Yeah.
me, not me.
I understand. And you have never been somebody I've seen who has been a political activist about that. You've always been somebody who has said to me, Misu, we all are here together. We all live in this together. None of us were there when this happened. All we have is now, in the now, to live in the now and be who we're supposed to be in the now. And that's something I've always respected about you, even though I would understand if you'd want to be an activist.
That actually happened in Bloomington.
Did it?
Yes, with Pierre Blue Frog. I think you
Oh,
remember.
yes, yes.
And I did my whole spiel and spoke and talked about the hardship. And, we get like 15 minutes. You know this. I know
Yes.
this. 15 minutes with each group of kids, and they go away and they go, and another one comes. And we did it all day, and it was hard. It was a long day. We had a great drink afterwards because
Yes,
we were
we
so
did.
tired. Long story short, Pierre came to me and said, Reuben, it's great that you're telling the history, the stories, yada, 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 all that. But think about this. That lady, that little girl in the front row is going to be the next president. That boy in the back is going to be the next senator. He's going to be the next U.S. representative. And that's all he said. And he walked away. And I thought about that, and I thought, it doesn't do any good to be an angry Indian. Hate doesn't heal hate. Hate does not heal hate. It's what you do. And so I changed my whole format and everything. I just changed it. And I looked at the things that bring us together.
Yes.
The positivity. Anger doesn't heal anger.
You're absolutely right.
You know that.
Think Steve Clark in the chat room posed a question, and I'm going to kind of rephrase it a bit, but he asked, do you think that a Native American would make a good president of the United States? And I want to kind of morph that question a bit to maybe give it a little deeper meaning from my point of view would be, do you think a Native American who truly represented Native American rights, Native American thinking, would ever run for president of the United States?
I would say, Steve, I love that question, but I would say that it would be a woman because we're matriarchal, and a woman could run the world better than a man. Whether she's black, like Kamala Harris, or anybody like that, I think is necessary, important.
Well, I always liked Tulsi Gabbard. She has, I do not know, she's Polynesian, isn't she? Is that her bloodline? She's Hawaiian.
I think so. I think so.
I think she would make a fantastic president. I don't agree with her on every point, but I think she would make.
I think somebody that's logical and strong, and it's a woman. I mean, look at your wife, Rainey, and look at my girlfriend, Susie, Jewish, and I take heed.
Yes.
Not that I want to be in charge, but it just. I've always been attracted to women that were intelligent because they would make me think outside the box in that way. And
listen, I'm going to tell you something, and everybody who's listening can hear this too. And I will qualify it because of the world we live in nowadays. I've dated dumb women before. I'm sure there are smart women out there who said, I dated Scotty Roberts. He was a dumb man. I'm sure that's been said too. So I only say that for effect because there are some women I would never follow. I would never want to give my heart to or my life to or have kids with. I had kids with a dumb woman. I'm sorry to say that. My ex-wife. She's not dumb. Problems. And we all know about those different stories. That's my opinion on that. But a good man, I think, would never want to align himself with a dumb woman unless he believes that he is superior to her. And yeah, all that to say, I've never put those thoughts together cogently in a thread before, so I hope everybody understood where I was coming from on that. My wife would make a fantastic president of the United States. If she had taken that path and followed the path to get her there, she could have done that.
I agree.
Smart.
I totally agree. I think you're right in saying that, Chia, older brother. I've been married twice and lost twice, probably because of my hand. Understood, whatever, wherever you want to take it. But the whole point is that women are in charge. Women have say. Women bore us. Your mother, my mother, and I miss my mother's cooking. I miss my mother's laughter. That's really what it is. And I think Rainey could be president. I think
she could. June Shasta says, I pity the country that messes with President Rainey.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's true. It's this country was originally run by women. Native Americans, the men hunted and they sacrificed their lives and did all that, but it's a woman that owned the home. It was a woman that took care of the children, and that's why men had multiple wives, because the first wife said, you're going to marry my sister because I need help. Basically, done, over. Yeah. And so he did, so like an elk or a buffalo, they bred themselves, but they died. And so the candle that burns the brightest, Chia, older brother, the candle that burns the brightest burns quicker.
Yes.
And is extinct. And that's what we are. You're that elk. I'm that elk. I'm that buffalo. Yeah. You're that buffalo. And we burn bright. And so there we go.
And brother, we got to leave it at that. This show is over in less than 2 minutes. I'm going to put you out in the wings again. If you stick around, we do, after the show goes off the radio station, we come back right here, we stay live, and we go on with the Captain's Cabin. Arr.
Yes.
So we'll chat a little bit, maybe informally. And so you hang on there, Reuben. Don't go away. I'm going to take you off the air. All right, folks, that was my dear friend of many, many years, Reuben FastHorse. And many of you, my regular listeners, know him, and you know what he's all about. And you can find him on Facebook. He doesn't have an official website or anything like that, as far as I know. If he does, we'll correct that in the Captain's Cabin afterwards. But I would think I'd know of it if he did. So, Reuben FastHorse, thank you for being here tonight. Folks, we're going to be back tomorrow night with same bat time, same bat channel. We might move the subject that was originally for tonight, talking about being stoned, the efficacy of being stoned, man, and talking about weed and the magical properties and the magical uses of weed and some of the different herbs, primarily marijuana. I'm not an advocate for marijuana. Smoking is not my thing. I've never done it, but it's not a thing for me. But I think it might be interesting for us to look at this from a magical perspective. So all of you come back tomorrow. And now we got about 25 seconds and we are off the air over at Odyssey Radio. So all of you who are here, I want to wish you a good night. I want to thank you for being here. And we're going to go out with a bang now. So you know what? As usual, you live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
All right, folks, and we are back. I'm going to bring Reuben right back into the show. We are now no longer doing the official show on air tonight. And I've got to cut the stream off in 1 seconds. Boom. Stream is off. And so I can unplug my headset, and which I have to keep so I don't get all the feedback. And how's everybody tonight? Glad you are all still here hanging around, those of you in the chat room. We've got a handful of people here yet tonight. More than a handful, a couple of handfuls. And
I want to teach you a Lakota word real quick.
Teach it to me.
Doksha ake.
Doksha akted.
Ake.
Ake. Doksha
Which
akted.
means Native Americans never had a word for goodbye. So you can say Doksha ake. Doksha ake.
Okay.
Which means until we see each other, we will speak.
So if I were to type that phonetically, I would put
Doka space AKHE. Doksha.
There it is. I put it into the chat room. Doksha. Oh, I forgot the S. DOSHA. Doksha.
Okay.
Hold on.
Space AKHE.
Okay.
There's no words in Cherokee, Navajo, Tlingit in Seattle, Lakota in the Central Plains, Cheyenne. We have no word for goodbye. We just say until we speak again.
Speak again. Doksha ake.
That's Lakota. That means what you just said. So
I'm curious, as a linguist, I want to ask you, because we had talked about this once before, that there was the language, and then there's a language, you called it something. It was in one of your classes. I was watching the language that's spoken, that's like, if you will, the street level Lakota.
Oh yeah, the slang. Yeah.
The slang, and it's the same words, the same language. It's just pronounced differently. It's spoken a little differently.
When it's you're right in the sense of when you speak it fast, it becomes almost a slang.
Okay.
It's like saying, "What's up? What's up?
What's up?
And I speak English, and I speak bad English. so there we are.
Yes.
But to know Lakota, to know Native America, it's, and I tell people it's not just about, I'm going to South Dakota and I'm going to see the Indians. Well, who are you going to see?
Yeah.
The Lakota, the Dakota, the Nakota. I'm going to the Southwest. You want to know, the best way to know a Native American is by the linguistic stock. So you want to say, I'm going to go among the Hopi, or I'm going to go among the Dene, which they call themselves, and it's Navajo.
Now, do you have an ear for that? Can you bump into a Native American person? You can probably tell by their appearance, but by hearing their speech, the way they talk.
I can say, oh gosh, you're Dene. I lived in, it's just like among Canadians. I was at a bank. I lived 12 years and I was married to an Australian,
Yes.
Ash. And I went to the bank one day and to exchange some money, and the guys in front of me, I didn't really pay attention to, but the lady the teller, Australian teller, said, "Oh, are you Canadian?" And I said, "No, I'm American." And she said, "Wow, the two men that were before you were Canadian." And I said, "How so?" And they said, she said, "Oh, are you American?" And they slammed their fist against the counter and said, "No, we're Canadian.
We're Canadians, eh?
We're Canadian." And I never heard a Canadian to say something like that. But
You know, I had, when I was in Scotland back in, wow, a long time ago, 1990, and stayed in a bed and breakfast in Perth, Scotland. And there was the little old lady of Perth that ran the, and she came out and we were all talking at breakfast, and she's, "Oh, you're so nice then. Are you Canadian?" And I said, no, we're American. And then I had the guys, I went back, I was in Wales with a couple of buddies. It was the epic trip. Jeff Shilton, who did Westover from 10 Seconds of Harmony. We went over and took a road trip, just rented a car and castle hopped and pub hopped for 2 weeks. And we ended up in a little pub in Abergavenny, Wales. And there were all these guys sitting there in their blue jeans and white T-shirts. I mean, middle-aged guys, they came from work that way. And we're all talking, and I said something, and I was so dumb back then. This was 2005. And I said to them something about, "So what are y'all doing here?" I said at 4 p.m. I said, "Is that the British way of doing things? You knock off work and go."
Ooh.
And everybody stopped talking. It was like a movie moment. And they stood up, a couple of them at the bar, and the one guy turns to us. He's got his white T-shirt on, and he turns and he's like this, and he looks at us, and in his Welsh accent, he goes, "British?"
I know.
"We're not Brits. We're Welshmen. Miss, maybe from now on, I'll just call you Mr. Canada." And I said, I'm sorry. Let me buy a round," which I did. And they just laughed at us after that, because they were joking, but they were very serious at the same time.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Here's the moral of this story: never go into a Welsh bar where a bunch of Welshmen are drinking and call them British.
It's so true. And I've done my own accidents, so to call accidents.
Yes.
Where I was in New Zealand, and I ordered fish and chips.
Yeah.
And they do it wrapped in newspaper.
Yeah.
So the guy was looking at me, and I said, "I'll take some fish and chips." And he's like, he said to me, "You want the wrap and pepper?"
You want that with that egg powder pudding?
And I said, "No, I don't want no pepper." And he said, "You don't know, wrap and pepper.
Oh, the pepper.
And I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand." And he said, "Do you want it wrapped in paper?" Because they put it in newspaper.
"Would you like this wrapped in paper?" Doing his best American accent.
Right. It sounded like I was North Dakota, wrapped in paper.
It reminds me of one of my favorite older movies of all time. So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Oh, yeah.
With Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
And he plays his own Scottish dad in that movie. And his old Scottish dad is talking like drinking, getting drunk, watching TV. And he says in another scene, Michael Meyer introduces his girlfriend to him. This is my new girlfriend, or my friend so and so. And the dad goes, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, lass." And she's asking him questions. She goes, "Well, what do you do for a living?" He goes, "Well, I'm a bitcher." And she says, "I'm sorry, a bitcher. I'm a bitcher. You know, I cut meat." So I cut up meat. I'm a bitcher. So that's a Scottish accent. I have one more little quick from. We were in Inverness. This is all the way back to 1990 again. My first traveling experience. I was 29 years old, and we traveled to Scotland and England, and we were up in Inverness, which is, at the mouth of Loch Ness, and a little town up there, and well, big town really. And we were parked. And we went to park to go do some shopping and get some lunch. And I'm on the street. It's very busy. And there's a gray curb that I park alongside. And now here in the United States, when you see a gray curb, that means you can park here. If it's painted yellow, what do? Yellow means no parking zone, or you will be ticketed, possibly towed. So I didn't study this ahead of time. I'm driving, and we get into Inverness. Like, oh, there's a spot. I don't even think about it. Parked by the unpainted gray curb. Well, we come back a couple hours later, and there's a stout Scottish policeman, and he's maybe all of 5'7" or 8, and he's got the little flat topped, with the bill, the little police hat, and he's the full wool uniform and the big brass buttons, and he's old. He's older. And he's got big white bushy eyebrows that are coming out from under the visor, and he's right, and I run up and go, "Oh, did our meter right?" Or I said, "Am I parked illegally or something, or in the wrong place?" And he looks at me and he says, "You parked on the gray." And I said, oh, and he said, "You're supposed to park on the yellow." And I said, and then my big mistake was saying, "Oh, I'm American. I didn't read up on that. I didn't know about that." And he says, and he looks like this. He's got the bill of his hat. I wish I could reproduce this for you. It's like this. The bill of his hat, and he looks up like this from underneath the bill of his hat, and he says, "Well, you're not in America now, are you, lad?" And I said, very sheepishly, I said, "No, I'm not." And so he writes me out a ticket. There you go. He says, "Don't park on the gray. You park on the yellow." I got it. Now, I never paid that ticket, so who knows? I may be still a wanted fugitive.
Still wanted in Scotland.
But, you're not in America now, are you? He probably went drinking after that with all his Welsh buddies in the pub. So I had this American in today.
Exactly. Totally.
America, are you? Oh, I'm an American.
You were a story. You became a story at that point.
I became a story.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. That's awesome. And it's the same thing, when you travel, you're the ugly American.
Yeah.
I was in Australia with my kids, and you can be topless. So
cool.
All these girls are just running around.
Oh, the girls can be topless. Yeah.
Topless. Yeah. The guys are topless. Doesn't matter. But, and so they're all topless and doing their thing. And my kids never knew,
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big deal. So it didn't bother them, but I was just like, whoa. The worst part was, I was sitting there with my wife, Ash, and the kids and
a buxom young lass comes strolling by.
all these girls are playing soccer
We're all
or
playing soccer,
volleyball
volleyball.
and topless, and
Oh,
then all these Americans, check this out, come running down the beach,
Yeah.
and they're saying Oklahoma, 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 and I just like.
Nice.
I felt like such an ugly American because they were all from Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, and they were being American. And
all I have to say to topless Australian ladies playing volleyball on the beach is bump, set, spike.
exactly, totally.
Let me get my popcorn. Go.
No, it's
Go
true.
Red Team.
Very true.
It's a spectator sport. Paige
It's
Sewell,
sad.
hey guys, she says. Paige Suey. I think that's how you say that. Suey. I think you know her. Paige Sousi. Suey?
Suey.
Suey.
Yep. You're right.
Welcome to the show, Paige. She just came into the chat room. So we're not going to go very much longer. I'm tired. I being stoned half the day is very tiring. Yes, so anyway.
Well, it's always great to talk to you, Chia. You know, it's in depth.
Yeah, it's always great, Misu, having you on the show.
And you're back. You're not in Minnesota, or
I am in Minnesota right now, up in the North Woods. I'm up Pequot, which is a word that should be familiar with you.
That's north. Yeah, that's northwest of here. That's the Pequot Nation. So
yes. That's all
amazing.
Up here. You go here and you go over to, on the way home, I can go around. I can go the highway, or I can take the back highways and I go around Lake Mille Lacs, which is, folks, if you ever look at a map of Minnesota, there's a big ass lake right in the middle of Minnesota.
Yep, I know Mille Lacs. And
there's the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe is up here, the reservation up here.
The thing is that people don't know is that was all my country, Sioux country.
Yes.
And then in 1773, we lost. The last battle was at the Battle of Mille Lacs, the lake. And 1773, we lost that to them. But the Ojibwa, the Anishinaabe people, as they call themselves, came from Nova Scotia. They said, come to the land where there is food on the water, wild rice. And so they came. And so they moved us out, the Sioux Nation, and we became buffalo hunters after that.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
Yeah. But the original people of Wisconsin, are, and I can say it right, Wisconsin is Wisconsin.
It's like I'm from White Bear Lake, but I came from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I'm from Milwaukee. Yeah. Sheboygan.
Milwaukee.
So
you follow the Packers? You a Packer football fan?
Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. The original people were Menominee.
Yes. Menominee,
Menominee people were the original people. And then the Ho-Chungra or Ho-Chunk down by that southwest part of Wisconsin. Come from us, the Sioux. They have a story that says, I talked to an old man named Ben Black Bear Jr., and I sang with him, and he said, we have a story that this is their version, that there were two brothers that fell in love with the native woman, and one won her and the other went out west. And he said, that's you. You're the Sioux. The Sioux went out west. because we won the woman, and we're Ho-Chungra people. So that was interesting. But linguistically, as a linguist myself, you have Iroquoian out here in New York, Onondaga, Cayuga, Tuscarora, Seneca, Mohawk, Oneida, Six Nations. Around your area, it's
Ojibwe.
it's Ottawa, Potawatomi, Anishinaabe, Chippewa. They're the three brothers. Linguistically, just like Slavic or Germanic or Romantic, that's how you really know a people, by their linguistics. And out west, it's Siouan. So the Osage, the Omaha, the Ponca, and the Crow. They'll never admit it, but they all come from us. The umbrella is a Siouan language, but underneath it are these other languages. And so makes sense. I mean, you think about it in that way. So, yeah.
Jay here, Mackenzie in the chat room says, my son is Oglala Lakota Sioux from his late father's side. So, oh, and by the way, Paige, her last name is pronounced Sway. It's spelled it's not her last name. Her last name is Rockwell, she said. But Paige Sway, or Suey, it looks like. Paige Sway Rockwell. Thank you, Paige, for clearing that up for me. So,
Oglala is a sub-band of the Lakota. The chief of Oglala is Red Cloud. I grew up in Oglala, the town, village, so to speak, Crazy Horse, but I'm not Oglala. Oglala means, it's like if you have a steak or a pork chop and you Oglala, you scatter the pepper or the salt across it.
So is the Oglala like almost like the word diaspora?
Scattered among their own,
Scattered,
which means there's many
Amongst
different Lakota that make Oglala. Hunkpapha, which is Sitting Bull, my tribe that I'm from, means Hunkpapha. Hunkpapha means those that camp at the end of the horn.
Oh.
The tip. And that's what that means. Minikonju Sioux or Lakota means those that plant near the water. And Sichanghu, Rosebud Sioux in a Pine Ridge, in Rosebud means those that have burnt thighs, which means one of the defense mechanisms of Lakota people on the prairie was when they were in danger, they would light the prairie behind them and create a prairie fire. So the enemy couldn't cross. They would just stand there and watch. And then when they came back, they had to walk through the burnt prairie. And so their moccasins, their thighs were all charcoaled.
Oh.
And that was the name, Sichanghu, burnt thighs.
Oh,
so
that's very interesting. Because we have like the Ho Chunk Casino down near the Twin Cities area. I think it's Twin Cities, or is that over by the Wisconsin Dells and down south?
It's Dells. It's a Dells.
Dells. Okay.
Yeah. So they weren't dumb. Indians were smart and doing what they did, what they had to do in many ways. And only two people, Native American people, that defeated the U.S. government.
Yes.
And yet taught them how to fight, because they were fighting like the 42nd Highland Brigade and the Last Mohicans standing in line, and we taught them guerrilla warfare. And I'll give you 3 examples, but the first example is the Seminole people. Nobody could defeat them because they lived in a swamp, and they defeated the U.S. government. The Lakota, my people, defeated them at the Little Bighorn in Montana.
Yes.
Because when you fight somebody on the prairie, you got to go straight at them. And then you turn around and you come right back. And they never knew that. They didn't know how to do that. You can't sit behind a tree and shoot bows and arrows and whatnot.
Right.
You got to come right at them. And you fall, but you still go straight. And the Apache, I think, are the best. There was a battle between the Sioux, the Lakota, and the Apache, and in their territory. And they would, if you ever watched that movie Geronimo with Wes Studi, how they would lay down in the sand and cover themselves with a blanket and then sand, and then they would just wake up out of the ground and take out the U.S. government. So Indians have always been strong in that way, I guess I can say, where they taught them how to fight.
Yes.
To this day. So
it's funny. You and I talked about this before. It just popped into my head. I have not kept up with it. There's a series called Reservation Dogs, and it's about a bunch of teens growing up on modern day reservations somewhere in Kansas or Oklahoma or something like that, I think. And the one boy, and they're kind of troublemakers and stuff, and it's dealing with life, and it's very comically and cleverly written, as well as being very poignant. And so the one boy, teenage boy, he sleeps or he was knocked out from something, and he has a vision of and I think I tagged you in this once on Facebook, the vision of the Lakota warrior on the horseback. And his name was something like, my name is Richard such and such. I was a Lakota warrior at the Little Bighorn, and I'm your spirit guide. And he had a white man's name, and I don't know if they ever explained that, but he says, "No," he says, "I wasn't one of those heroes at the Little Bighorn." He says, "I was running this pony right here, my faithful steed." There was a painted pony, and he goes, and he stepped in a hole, broke his leg. I went off over his head. He rolled over me, and he killed me. He says, so I died. And he says, but he says, now, he says, I'm still, he says, I'm still a great warrior. And, or whatever it was. And he did that. And it was just hilarious. And he appears to him at different times during this season with just some comic things, but also good sage advice for him. And you'll have to have not seen that. It's called Reservation Dogs.
I know it.
And I don't know what it's on. It's either on, I don't know if it's Amazon.
I think it's like Hulu or something like that.
It's Hulu.
Yeah.
So well worth seeing. I hope they renewed that for another season.
I hope so too.
It was really well done.
And Native American humor is like, I peg Native American humor to British humor. It's very dry.
Yeah.
But hilarious, like Monty Python. I love Monty Python. I relate to that.
I saw a Native American stand-up comic, and I can now not remember who he was or where I saw that. Probably something just on, you see on Facebook the videos go by in the comics and stuff like that. And there's a guy named he's God rest his soul, Hill, and he's Oneida from Wisconsin. And he told a couple stories in this way. He said,
and I use it all the time in my speeches, just to make Native American people seem humorous.
Yeah.
And so he said, my wife and I were in the grocery line and at the hardware store, and we were talking in our native tongue, and we were speaking, and the guy behind me was very upset. He said to me, "You're in America. You should speak in American."
Oh boy.
And so I turned to him and I said, okay. He said, "Go back to your country." So I camped out in his backyard.
There you go. There it is.
And
Go back to where you came from.
go back to where you came from. So I camped out in his backyard. What am I going to do? It's my land. And then,
David Potter, by the way, is here in the chat room. Uncle Dave, he says hi, Reuben.
hey, Dave. Another story another joke is that, so I was in the grocery line, hardware line, and I had 2 bags of potting soil on my shoulders, and the white man behind me said, "So what are you going to do with that soil?"
Oh boy.
I said to him, as a Native American, "I'm buying my land back 1 bag at a time."
Nice. Nice.
That's you got to laugh at the hardship that goes on, the shit that goes on towards you, with you, at you, whatever. And Native Americans always want to find laughter in some kind of shape or form, and I'm the same way. You know that. You know me. I'm not hard at you.
No.
I love you. You're a great guy, and
I'm not giving you my land. So.
Yeah. That's a thing, I'm not going to be mine.
You can share it. You can pitch your tent out back.
There you go.
Your teepee.
But it's the whole point is that you're Republican. I'm a Democratic.
I'm not a Republican, by the way.
Okay. Well, you're other. And
I'm an independent. Yeah.
There you go. But the whole point is
Jeffersonian liberal. Boom.
There you go. I like that. And the whole point is that everybody, that's what makes America great, is that we can be Native, Black, I'm not afraid to say Black, Asian. I wouldn't say yellow or anything like that, but it's just we recognize each other. And what makes this country great is the differences. Unity through diversity. Unity through diversity.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we do. What you do, I respect, and I love it. That I'm on deck right now, and I love your kids, Abby and Bree, Scotty, everybody, and it's like family. It just makes sense, and we're all different.
And my daughters, my twin daughters, I always say my twin daughters because I got 2 other daughters and aren't twins. So for people listening, my twin daughters, Abby and Bryn, my 30-year-olds, they knew Reuben very well. They know Reuben very well. Reuben and his wife lived with us for a while, back when my daughters were 9 or 10. And Sam was just a baby then, but you've gotten to know Sam pretty well.
Yes.
But those 3 kids of mine, they're all, if this matters at this percentage point, or this decimal or ratio, they're all about 1/16 Oneida. No, 1/8. They're 1/8 Oneida because their grandma is, I believe their grandma is half Oneida, And I always thought when I first met her that she was Italian. She's kind of heavy set, not fat. She was heavy set. She was a stocky woman, big, strong woman, with a nose and dark hair. And I always thought she was like Italian or something, like an Italian mama. And but she was Oneida, and she even looked on her father had not a birth certificate. He had something. There was something written up on him because he was, I believe, he was full blood, if I'm not mistaken. We're talking turn of the 19th to the 20th century. And but somewhere he was listed as black, not as Indian. Very dark skinned for Oneida. And so but then I've got my kid's grandmother. She married a guy who was full-blooded German. His parents were from Germany. They were immigrants here, and they married in the Depression era. And so, well, later than that. It has to be later than that because my wife then, my ex-wife, was their daughter, and she was born around the early 1960s. And but she's blonde-haired. She picked up the blonde-haired, blue-eyed from her dad's Dutch or German side. All that discombobulation I'm talking about, brush it aside. My kids are half own. My kids, Abby, Bryn, and Sam. All right, this is the stoned hangover going on still. Abby and Bryn and Sam. Their mom is German. She's blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They're blonde-haired, blue-eyed for the most part. Sam's got the red beard, which I think he picked up from me. And even though I was never a redhead, I had a red beard when I was younger. And but they are, boy, all that beleaguered point making there, just to say, my daughters and my son Sam, they're 1/8 Oneida. Well,
You know, it's great to say that, and I hope everyone listening tonight can understand that six out of 10 Americans have Native American ancestry. They don't know that. Not all African Americans are totally African. Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Seminole, 5 civilized tribes they come from. And being out here and speaking at the UN 4 times, 2019, and the indigenous acknowledgement of Native Americans makes sense. So what you're saying makes sense. It's Oneida. That's what the Americans call it, but it's not Oneida. It's Oneata-aga. Oneata-aga. The people of the standing stone.
Ah.
That's what that means, and that's what they are. Oneata-aga. Oneata-aga. The people of the standing stone. But the Americans call it. And American English, as a linguist, I'll tell you, it's such a bastard language. It's a bully language. You can have a word in French put into English, and it's going to be bullied. They'll make it into what was a verb in French.
Okay.
A noun into English. And that's what I've learned from the English language, how they bastardize. It's not Minnesota, it's Minnesota. Minnesota, the land of the great. Mini is water, and Shota is the land of the smoky water. Mishkonsing, you call Wisconsin. Mishkonsing is Anishinaabe Ojibwa for Mishkonsing is the land of dark water.
Okay.
because every time you look in Minnesota or Wisconsin, the water is dark. Not because it's dirty, it's because of the acidic trees. The tamarack trees lose their acid in the water, and it looks deeper. It could be 2 feet, it could be 7 feet. It doesn't matter. It's dark. Michigan is Ojibwa Anishinaabe for Gitchigan. You look at Lake Superior. It's not Lake Superior. It's Gitchigandu, which is Ojibwa for again deep lake. Canada is Anishinaabe, Ojibwa. Canada, which means village in their language. So, you know, there's a great professor out of, I think he's gone, God rest his soul, Jack Weatherford, like weather and Ford, like the car, Weatherford. And he wrote 2 books called Native Roots and Indian Gibbers. He was a professor at the University of Minneapolis, and he wrote, and this is what I quote when I speak around the world, in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, England, Canada. I quote him because he talked about how the naming of an America, how it came to be. Massachusetts is not Massachusetts, it's Massachusetts, Rocky Cliff. And so all these terms and these names have a purpose and meaning. They tried to make a New England. They tried to make a New York and Manhattan, all this kind of stuff, but they ran out of words. So they took on Native American words, and that's the naming of a Native America in that way.
Well, you go to Minneapolis, you know, which you lived around these parts for a long time. Minneapolis, Minnesota, up to Duluth, where you lived, up in that area. Minnesota is filled with towns and villages and cities that are all derived from, not just Lakota, Native American words. Same with over here in western Wisconsin, where I live. And so this whole region is just filled with, you look at just the major cities down south of Minneapolis as you go. We did Renaissance Festival, and you go down to the Renaissance Festival, it's in Shakopee. There's Shakopee, there's Chaska is right there. There is Chanhassen. I don't know if Chanhassen, what that one comes from, but you got Mankato. You've got Red Wing. You've got all these little towns all up and down, dotted all around, that are all derivatives of chiefs that fought in the Dakota Wars there in the 1850s and stuff like that. So,
no, it makes sense. It's true. I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that everything that you just said to me, Shakopee, Wanji, Nupa, Yamani, Dopa, Zapta, Shakpe, Chief Shakpe, Chief 6, that's his name. Chanhaska, Cha is wood, white wood, Chanhaska. Owatonna is O. Every time you have a O, it means a place. Owatonna, Wa is snow. Dona, it's a place of a lot of snows.
Oh,
I
went to school in Owatonna, so.
Owatonna, there you go. And Wayzata, it's not Wayzata, it's Waziataka.
Ah,
north. Waziataka. So Minneapolis is mini water. Apolis is Greek for city. So
Yep.
it's a place of water. It's a place of water. And that's what I love about Minnesota is just there's so many Lakota words that people think it's all Ojibwa. It's
yeah.
not. It's not. And it's a place. Even in Wisconsin, there's a lot of Anishinaabe, Ojibwa people there, but really, it's not. It's a place of Lakota, Dakota people that have lived there before them. Lakota, Dakota lived as far as Michigan, the UP, Upper Peninsula.
Yes.
In that way, up into Canada. So it's amazing. It's amazing that
Yes.
you don't know this until you're a historian like yourself, or go to college, but you don't hear it in history, high school history. It's not there. It's just It's dinosaurs, and then the Indian Wars, and World War I, World War II, yada 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 yada, whatever. But it's gone. It's gone.
It is.
So
It is.
it's sad.
There should be some good classes, some elective classes, perhaps. That kids can take on Native American history. They should learn a little bit more than they do. That's for sure.
I it's funny you should say that, because just give me a moment here.
Sure.
I would love for you to plug this.
Sure.
I have my Zoom class, but I also work for an app called Here.
Here. You're right. Costner's app.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner's part of
And
that.
he came on deck because he said, I want you to put on the Native American aspect of nature and what's going on. So when you're driving, and I know out here in New York, I see placards, bronze placards of here's where George Washington slept, or whatever. But there's no Native American aspect of it. And I think, so I'm the voice for on the app, one of the apps where it's around Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. And so
folks, you need to look up that app, by the way. Go get that app, download it. Here, it's called. Now, is it here as in HEAR or HERE, or is it both?
HEAR. Here. Like,
I figure if it's a map app, it's probably location oriented. Yep. So.
And it's free, and people traveling through my part of the woods, North Dakota, South Dakota, will hear my voice in regards to what I just said.
Yes.
Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, slept here, or whatever, and people don't know that. And so it's really good in that sense of acknowledging, recognizing Native American people and in their land. And I've been working with the Delaware tribe here in New York and the Lenape to do the same thing. So they
That's
can,
cool.
They're not just going to hear the aspect of white Americans being here. They're going to hear about Indian raids or Native American things that happened here. So
that's great.
It's a start. It's a start. I've taught at NYU. I've spoken at the UN 4 times in indigenous languages. And it's just finding a recognition finally for Native Americans. As you well know, in that way. So it's really good. And I'm glad you do what you do and you create an awareness, not just on a psychic level, but also a native level as well as a human level. So
Yeah. Well, thank you, brother. All right. You know what? I'm going to wrap this up. You know why? I'm really tired. So let's call this quits for tonight. Reuben, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again, Misu, my little brother. And you have a good night.
be well. Take care. You and Rainey. Happy birthday, Rainey.
We will. I'll pass that on to her when I see her again tomorrow.
All right. Doksha.
Right.
No words for goodbye. Doksha.
That's right. Talk to you soon. All right, guys. That was Reuben FastHorse. It was not the announced topic tonight, but of course he and I talked, and I said, "Come on, anyway, let's do it." And so that was Reuben's always fun to have on. Keep him in your thoughts. He is still recovering from brain surgery, and his hair is starting to grow back. You can see on the one side, I guess it was his side, and good to have him tonight. And tomorrow night we'll be back. It's Friday night tomorrow night. And I will be, the only way I will not be here is if when I get home tomorrow, I may take the night off to spend time with Rainey for her birthday, since I've been gone the last 3 days. And so as you can see, I'm still here in my friend's cottage up on the lake in Pequot Lakes. And the bright daylight lights here don't do the ambiance of this room justice. It's all the pine wood room, and so it's very nice in here. So, but tomorrow morning I'll be heading back down 3.5 hours down to get home. So, Captain's Corner tomorrow, Captain's Cabin tomorrow night, unless we don't do a show at all. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on tomorrow night. So you guys, you all take care, and we'll see you back tomorrow night. And remember to live long and prosper. Talk to you guys soon. Good night. Boom.